it's like, I mean, I know what it's like to have hunger pains, and you're telling me that you're just going to want my child just to starve and not get the nutrition they need, and that's how they're going to pass. Like,
how do you know? And how do you know it's not a painful way to die? Have you, as a doctor, have they experienced that? Like,
yeah, that was,
that
I
is
think that's
bullshit.
that was yeah, that was
Sorry.
one of the most no, the one that was one of the most shocking things I think we've ever heard, and um, this was from one of the doctors that we actually liked, and for him to say that at that point, like, you got to be absolutely kidding me. I mean, we decided not to move forward with any type of, feeding stuff, but and we were doing things on our own at home, but to tell us that about a child that we're already at home, essentially watching slowly pass, and to tell us, well, it's not a painful way to go, to just, to basically starve and your body starves. Like, that's horrific. That's horrific. And how many more parents and families have been told that it's like, just let them go. Just give them pain medications and they'll be asleep and it'll be fine. Like, that's out there. And that's unacceptable. 100% unacceptable. Like, you're saying that you want them to be comfortable. It doesn't seem like a comforting measure to me to say that that's okay and that we should be okay with that.
Yeah, because the thing too is, you mentioned that JC was unable to communicate, Brittany had been unable to communicate, but we don't know what their minds were sitting there thinking as far as, what they're experiencing. And so, yeah, I'm not going to say that starving is something that I would expect to hear a doctor saying it's not a painful way to go. Like, that to me is just feels insensitive with everything else going on, that it could have been worded probably a little bit better, or not said at all, and just saying, like, no, we're not going to approve it because we don't think that she's going to make it through. That end of story. You didn't have to add in that kind of really insensitive piece.
Yeah, that's one of those. It kind of goes along the lines of the things that doctors should never say, or don't walk in and say, I know what type of cancer this is. You're going to be fine. You'll be cured here and there, or this. It's no big deal, or you're never going to walk again. Like things that, how about we'll do the best that we can, or this is the options that we have, or these are the options we have. This is let's be honest, this is a survival rate for this type of cancer, but we're going to do what we have options for. We're going to do that. You can give hope without also giving that false hope that makes us think that everything is okay, when it's real. We know that it's not. We're 100% in understanding. For us, in the very, when we were finally told that we were in that process of there's really no more options, I was through email. I was New York, Boston Children's, Seattle. I mean, I was on the phone, actually had a second opinion done through Boston Children's about what was going on, which I had to pay for out of my pocket, by the way, for them to do a second opinion. But in speaking to them at the end of it, once they got all the medical records, then it was, they're essentially, we would do the same thing if we had her here. Because when we got the notice, I was on the phone with them saying, if we drove there right now, is there something that you can do? Mm-hmm. And it was like, don't come, don't do it, because we don't have any other options that we can start at this point. Now, 6 months earlier, had we done this, or a year earlier at the time of diagnosis, then yeah, maybe you could have better options, better choices and things like that. But the things you learn afterwards when your child passes, I think, from all of this is almost infuriating on a daily basis, of the options that are there that are just never talked about. And it's like, you could reach out to 100 different hospitals. Why is there not this there are social networks all over this planet. Why is there not this social network or some kind of storyboard somewhere that all these doctors can put a diagnosis out there and say, help? Who's got an option here that can help me, or who's diagnosed this or dealt with this? Not, we're going to reach out to 2 different hospitals and this is what we're going to come up with. For me, if you can search and find these doctors, right? If you can find them, then so can they. I don't understand that aspect of it. I'll never understand that aspect of it.
Yeah, I agree. I know that there's the Children's Oncology group called COG, But again, I don't know, how often they meet, and, with so many different pediatric cancers, I'm sure each time it's like they're only talking on specific ones. So I'm sure what you ran into when finding a specialist, like for rhabdomyosarcoma, I think I only found like maybe 10 in the country. Boston being one, CHOP, Seattle Children's, Sloan Kettering, City of Hope, MD Anderson, the ones that you can find. And so we reached out to every single one of them, Connecticut Children's as well. And yeah, it is interesting as far as the fact that there's not more of a universal thing when it comes to treating childhood cancer, or just even resources for parents, instead of having to dig and search on your own and cold call and cold email, that it's not just being kind of like shot out like, okay, here's a new diagnosis for a child that has it in a very rare location, and what are we thinking? What are you doing out there? What's being done? It is frustrating. It is really frustrating. It's also frustrating because I'm sure you do a lot of research like myself. There's research going on. I read a paper about some promising research for embryonal rhabdomyosarcoma that got halted because the drug that they were using was a drug that, again, was made for adult cancer. They were able to access it. It actually showed a lot of promise for pediatric rhabdomyosarcoma, but because it wasn't productive for adult cancer, the company stopped producing it. And so that halted all research. So reading stuff like that, where there are like progress being made, but because pharmaceutical companies stop making drugs, or they don't want to work with producing drugs for childhood cancer, that's really infuriating to me. Seeing that there is possibilities, they're just not being able to be explored due to resources and money and drugs.
Yeah, no, that, to be honest with you, that's a great segue into what our event that we host every year. We raise money. Do we donate it to research? Like that's our way to give back, and kind of an investment into the future to find a way to make things change. This year, we've chosen a company that all they do is rescue these orphan drugs that are put on the shelf because pharmaceutical companies refuse, or the manufacturer of this drug refuses to test it in pediatric instances. So therefore, they cannot get FDA approval. So they shelf the drug. So we're just not going to work forward with whatever. This year, they rescue these drugs, they buy the rights to them, and they test them in pediatric instances because they have been proven to work within these types of areas, and there's several different types of cancer that they work with. And so they're doing it. That's all they do. And it's an amazing organization, and we're happy to work with them, but it's a shame that that's what it is. Like, oh, well, it's going to cost you $10 million to test it in children. That's not worth it. We're just going to put it on the shelf and we'll just leave it over here.
Yeah.
How many of these treatments, or how many of these drugs that some brilliant scientist has come up with, or student for that matter has come up with, are sitting on the shelf somewhere, or just were tossed the research out because it wasn't going to be profitable right away for a pharmaceutical company, or for a manufacturer of that drug, or something like that. And that's hours and hours to talk about on its own, is trying to figure that part out, because I don't understand it. I understand that big pharma is a business. I understand that they have to make money. I understand all of that. And, capitalist society, whatever. But there's also got to be a moral connection to all this at some point, where you have to look at it. I've seen videos where literally they took a drug and they knew that it was for, I believe it was for leukemia, and it was X amount of dollars. But once they found out, the pharmaceutical company, that it could treat other cancers, they jacked the price by like 900%, because they knew that it was, now people can't get the drug because they can't afford it. But it's like, well, we know that it works for more things, so we're going to charge you more money for it, as opposed to, let's just get it in the market and help people.
Yeah.
I don't want to be on that side of, a patient cured is a customer lost avenue, but it hits you a lot of times when you hear stuff like this, that we're just going to shelve it because, well, we don't feel like going through the FDA approval process, or it's going to cost too much time and money for us to research it in anything other than what we set out for.
Yeah. It's going to be too much to produce it and not enough people that need it, even though it will save lives.
Yep.
Yeah, that is a really frustrating thing to find. There's promising research out there. It just needs funding, or it needs a pharmaceutical company to buy in. Yeah.
Yeah, what we need 100%, and this is never ever going to change, but what we need is for these kids to grow up, and we need these kids to grow up and go into these industries and change it for us. And that's, I think that's the biggest thing with us for research or with fundraising or events or whatever, is always saying that these children are at the core of every single thing that we do. They are the future of everything we do, whether it's pharmaceuticals, whether it's aviation or politics. They're at the core of that, and they're what's going to be the next generation going forward in making these discoveries or making these changes. And the kids that are going through it now, the ones that are growing up, and they are the ones that are taking on these challenges. I talked to somebody, she's going to be a peds oncology nurse because of this. I've got another one who's gone into research and, medical field because of this, because of their experience as a child. That's what we need, is that personal experience, getting in there and saying, I'm going to fix this and I'm going to change it. But if the kids aren't able to grow up and they're not given that respect to understand that they are the future of everything we do, then we are doomed as a society, just in general.
No, I agree. It's Trinity is my older daughter. She's going into nursing, and she wanted to be a nurse before Brittany, but I think even after. And I've heard of some other family friends that are interested in getting into the medical field because of either Brittany's story or just they've been exposed to other childhood cancer stories, and they want to make a difference and they want to make an impact. And so you're right. It's just, we need to foster this environment to continue advocacy, awareness, sharing stories, because you never know whose heart they're going to touch. And, I've met some people that they've never experienced childhood cancer, as far as somebody close to them, but they saw what was happening and they created foundations because they just wanted to help, because they were so touched by what these children and families are going through. So you never know who you're going to have a conversation with or who you're going to share a story with that you could have a big impact and really inspire them to set out to make a difference.
Yep, and that's the hope. Like I said, I want those. I want people that are young and that are going into these fields. I want them to be the ones that chase those unicorns, if that's the way we have to put it. The ones that nobody's going after, that road less traveled by, and that's what I'm hoping for. And that's something else that we've been working on for a while, and hopefully one day it'll come to fruition. But that's the point of it, is to get those young entrepreneurial kids that just want to make a change and don't want to really take the road that everybody else has. Our youngest daughter has decided that she wants to be a child life specialist because of all of this, which is incredible.
Yeah, that is an incredible job.
And it's between them and anybody that works in the pediatric field, whether it's oncology or a pediatric nurse or anything, when you choose to work with children, you are a special human in general, because that takes a lot for you not to, I think, take it home every day. Mm-hmm. And I know that probably some of them do, but the child life specialists that we have been in contact, and we still, like I said, even with that oncologist, we're still in contact with our child life specialists from when the Jace was in the hospital, because they are truly incredible people. They get zero recognition. They don't get paid the way that they should. They don't get treated the way that they should, but they are incredible what they're able to do just in a moment. And we knew nothing of them, until 4:00 in the morning, when somebody came in and gave her a blanket and said, here's an iPad and here's what's going to happen. This is what they're going to do, and explained it in such a way that she wasn't scared. Mm-hmm. While I'm in the corner on the floor breaking down in a puddle, and she's getting explained something at 6 years old, like, this is what's going to happen, and it wasn't so scary. So it's incredible to watch those, and it's also incredible to watch people that have been touched by this, both personally and very closely, that have decided to move forward and really make this their future, an incredible effort on their part. And I look forward to hearing those types of stories, that here I am, a neuroscientist, because I was diagnosed with this as a child and I decided that it wasn't going to define me, but I was going to make a difference. And I love hearing those stories.
Yeah, it is. It's truly touching.
So I want to, I think that we could just go on for hours and hours, There's always so much in these, and I love doing these interviews, only because there's so many similarities that I pick up on, between Brittany and between JC.
Wow.
On top of the fact that Brittany's name is spelled the same as my sister Brittany, which growing up she was the only one that had spelled that TTNEY.
Yeah.
Everybody else was different. So that's, I don't know, maybe it's a sign, but it's weird. But it's one of those, it's like there's so many similarities that go along with what the journeys are, and the diagnosis or the misdiagnosis, the side effects that could change their life in the outcome as adulthood. Leptomeningeal disease, which is, I don't think that's one of those things that I don't think gets a lot of attention in exactly how detrimental it is.
No, that, when I was first, never heard of it. Even looking it up, I couldn't believe what I was reading. And I was just like, this can't be real. Like this, leptomeningeal, that's a whole nother thing that I would love to find somebody researching that, because it's not just rhabdo that can, like any cancer can become leptomeningeal. So that's what makes it really hard, once it enters the meninges of the brain. But I would love to find somebody doing research on that, because that's like a whole nother ball game that needs to be researched. And nobody should be getting to the point where they're saying there's no treatment options, there's nothing we can do. Like I don't want to hear that anymore. There should always be like, all right, let's try this. Or these kids shouldn't even be getting to that point anyways. But no parent should be told there's nothing we can do. There's nothing.
Yeah, that's that one. For us, that was, she was not feeling really well, wasn't able to, like at the set, she was at the point where she couldn't swallow, couldn't speak. And that was, she thought that they thought she had like an infection, that thought she had something going on with her throat or something that they could clear up. And when they couldn't, that's when they life flighted her to Milwaukee. And then when they got out there, we thought, okay, they're life flighting her here because they've got some treatment or something. No, they brought us there, brought us into a room with, I believe, 5 other people. So it was the doctor, I think another doctor on call, and a couple of nurses, sat us in the middle of them, pulled up her brain scans on the computer and said, there's nothing more we can do. And I was like, we just drove 2 hours from our house racing. Like, number one, I don't know how the hell we didn't get a ticket, racing here to beat the helicopter, which we obviously weren't going to beat. And just for you to tell us this. My wife was pissed. She got up and left the room. And I sat there in shock and held everything in, because at that point I wanted to pick the doctor up by the face and say, I cannot believe that you brought us here just to tell us this. Like, you could have told us this over the phone and it probably would have had less impact than with just bringing us here and circling us around with people. Like, I don't know, is this because you think that something's going to happen? Is this for your safety? I don't feel very comforted at this point.
Yeah.
And, when just literally a month earlier, we were doing a shunt revision and we were talking about clinical trials that they could use. And now all of a sudden that's not an option anymore. And, you're never going to get the doctor to say, well, it's because I found out, it's not worth it, or it's not, this, that, and the other. They're just going to be like, we've tried everything, and, go home and, again, make memories. Like, I don't want you to tell me to go home and make memories.
Yeah.
We've been making memories, since the day she was born. To tell her to go home and do this, and there's nothing more you can do. No, it's like it's not acceptable. It's not acceptable that families hear that. And it's not acceptable, I think, the way that's communicated, that there's nothing else we can do. Like, there has to be something that you can do, to make something happen. I don't know.
You mentioned clinical trials. That's a whole other thing too, that people that aren't in this world of pediatric cancer don't fully understand that just because there's a clinical trial available and your child has that type of cancer doesn't mean that they're qualified to be in that trial. So that's the frustrating thing too, is clinical trials want positive outcomes. So they will weed out people that they don't necessarily feel would benefit the outcome of the trial results. So, like Brittany, there was a lot of trials for rhabdomyosarcoma, but as soon as the central nervous system is involved, you're off the table, which is just that's a whole other thing too, where you think that there's all these trials, and then you have to find out, like, you have to qualify, you have to be approved, you have to be, basically selected to be a part of the trial, which is another frustrating thing too.
Yeah, and for clinical trials, you can't be too sick or you can't be too well.
You have to be off of treatment for so long. Like, you have to stop treatment and be off of treatment so then you're like, okay, as a parent, I'm stopping treatment to possibly try this trial, or do I continue treatment? Like, yeah, there's a lot of variables that play into it. Yeah. Yeah,
it's very, very selective, and it's one of those things where, again, you search for it, and they can be out there. Clinicaltrials.gov. We were on there searching for trials, trying to find something, and reaching out. There was one clinical trial, I believe, that was in New York, and we actually were able to talk to a doctor. But the other side of that is, to be accepted into the clinical trial, they have to be seen by that doctor. This is not like virtual COVID times. They have to be seen physically. They have to be physically able to go through the treatments that they're going to go through. And for us, yes, he said, you can come here, but this is what's going to happen. And at that point, we said, there's no way. She's not going to make that flight. She's not going to make that trip. It's just not going to happen. And so, the options, but you're looking at those options. You're physically looking at them up. The doctors are not. They are in the sense, but you're looking them up and bringing them to them and saying, here, we need to try this. We need to try this. They're not throwing those options out there because you are, as a patient, you're a number. But what I've told people all the time, and what I try to tell people, is that when you're in that office with that doctor, you are their only patient at that moment, 100%. I don't care. It's not an insensitive thing. It's me telling you that I don't care about how many other patients they have to see that day. I don't care about their golf game or their vacation that they have coming up, or that they're an hour late for their lunch. You're there. You're there to answer my questions. You're there to take me seriously. You're there to understand that you're giving us the worst news in the world, and we're trying to process it while giving you suggestions or asking questions, because we're trying to understand. Not, well, we've done everything we can. If you come up with something, let us know. What do you mean come up with something, let you know? You're the doctor. You have a team that should be coming to me and saying, there are 6 trials available here. There's a drug here that's been untested, but it's a possibility if you want to reach out to this doctor. And that, I think, is not the case in so many instances, at least not that I've heard or come in contact with.
Yeah. No, we did the same thing. We were trying to find trials. We flew out to CHOP, met with the team there. There was a trial, but ultimately we decided not to go with it. It was a drug dose escalation trial. So meaning they were just trying to find what the max dose that they could give to kids before certain side effects started happening. And it was 2 chemo drugs that she had already been exposed to. So we're like, we didn't really see the benefit of moving out there to do something like that. But yeah, it's a lot of work on the parents to try and find a way to treat and beat the odds, because that's what you're praying for all the time, is to be that case, that miracle, right? That's just going to defy everything. And even up into that day, we just kept thinking, like, she's going to defy the odds. She's going to defy everything that they say. And it's, yeah.
Yep, that is the ultimate hope at the end of the day, and that's, like I said, that's how we felt after she had 100% total resection, and we went home. And I tell the story that we were in the hospital 2 weeks for the diagnosis and for the surgeries, and on that 12th day she walked herself out of the hospital. There was no wheelchair, there was none of that. She walked out, and it was no big deal. And it was like, okay, we just left the hospital that we were here for 12 days. Our daughter had 3 brain surgeries, and it's like nothing happened. And we're okay. Well, you know what? We beat this thing. And I remember asking my wife not too long before the relapse, I said, are we going to be that miracle family, that family that beats this thing and doesn't have the outcome that we've seen in so many other cases with this type of cancer that we've been able to find in research, even with friends that we had who has a daughter that has the same type of cancer that JC did. And at the time when we met them, she was way worse off. And now she's still, living and thriving, but she has all of her tumors are stable, just inoperable. And so it's like, it's such a different, and we've met other people that are doing great. We've had some that have passed. It's like, you never get the same story. You never get the same treatment protocol. You never get the same options. And you always wonder, why is that? I understand that every child is different. Every human is different. Their genetics are different. And that can really play a part in how treatments are given. But at the same time, there's not like an option like A or B for how you're going to treat it. It's, here it is. This is what we're going to go with. And this is how it may or may not work. And, we'll see what happens. We did ICE therapy, which is for non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. That's the protocol for that. She went through the first 2 rounds of using ifosfamide and was in a locked in the box situation for 12 hours each time. Didn't know who I was, couldn't communicate, couldn't move, nothing. Second time they used methylene blue, which was supposed to counteract. That made it worse, because it gave her tremors so bad that she literally sat up in bed and then laid back down. And, but for me as a parent trying to comfort her, we made it fun. We said, okay, well, we can leave as soon as your pee doesn't look like it's radioactive and bright blue. And because you have to laugh about it. But at that 12-hour mark, she would wake up and she wouldn't have any recollection of anything that happened at all. But I said, this is not okay. We have to do something, because I'm not going to watch her go through this and be an invalid for 12 hours while you're giving her this drug and it's supposed to be making a difference. And then you get through it all, and then you find out, like, I didn't know the blood-brain barrier was a thing. I didn't know what it was, but we're treating her body with chemo that doesn't go past it. And you get to the end and think, there's where the what ifs come into play, because had I known this type of information, maybe we would have said, why are we doing this? Yeah. Why are we even proceeding with this? But that's, again, it's I think hours and hours and hours of conversation trying to really talk about all that and figure it out, and never, I don't think, ever understand it completely.
No, I agree. Because for Brittany's, it was like this back of the eye, so she was considered like intermediate risk based off of, like, the location and the size. And so typical, it's this alternating chemo regimen, and so you do chemo for like 6 to 9 rounds and then proton radiation. But then you read, for high risk, it's actually better to start radiation first and then do chemo. And so it's one of those things where when we went for proton radiation, they were actually surprised that her chemo hadn't been a bit more effective, as far as the tumor hadn't shrunk as much as they were hoping. So it's one of those things where it's like, okay, should she have done proton first? Would that have made a difference? Because that's when they started seeing the shrink, was after the proton radiation. But yeah, they just go off of these paths that are kind of predefined. But like you said, each kid is unique. Each situation is different. You're going with trust and hope that the right one's being picked for your child and that's going to be effective. And at the end of the day, cross your fingers and say your prayers.
That's exactly what it is. And I think that we all look at it as most treatments for kids right now are people throwing darts at a board, and whatever it sticks at, that's what we're trying. And it really is a shame. And what they're put through and what they're going through, it's just not okay. And we're, to have so many people on the outside look at it and say, but you've got all these types of amazing hospitals and all these types of and kids, they'll bounce back and they're resilient. Yeah, they are. They absolutely are. For normal everyday life, for skin, knees, and broken bones, they're resilient and they will bounce back and they will make a joke out of it. But for what this is in a completely different animal. It's a completely different category of what they can be resilient to. And yes, there are options in hospitals out there, but it's also means, it's money, it's transportation, it's jobs, it's lifestyle. And would so you're saying that you wouldn't give up your job or your family or your life to be the best for your child? Of course you would. But there's a lot of aspects to go into that. If you have other kids, if it's a career, if it's, you just can't pick up and leave all the time and you have to go with what you have. And so I wish that, to the heavens that we did have options, that every hospital had the options to be able to treat you the best way possible, or at least have the connection and communication with other hospitals. So if, we're in Wisconsin, so if Milwaukee Children's can't treat it, but Boston has the best treatment, that the doctors in Boston shared what they had and got it to Milwaukee so that we didn't have to travel, or vice versa. And that's what I hope, not because I don't think that, or that the doctors aren't capable, but if they don't have the tools that another hospital has that are working, we should be able to share those versus you got to come here to get your treatment. And those options aren't available for everybody. And they're not, you said you're very close to another hospital that gave you that option to be able to be treated there. We're only 30 minutes away from Green Bay. We had the option to have our chemos done there as opposed to 2 hours to Milwaukee, which was fantastic because that means, for radiation, if we would have gone to Milwaukee, you'd have to go down there Monday through Friday and stay, because to drive 2 hours back and forth would have been horrible. For Green Bay, it was, you're back home in an hour or 2 hours. The radiation only takes a little bit, and that was an option. That option isn't there for everybody, and a lot of people go through a lot of financial strain and hardship, and family. And I talk about this a lot, and people have asked us how we did it. I don't know. The answer is I have no idea. It's just sometimes it's dumb luck, sometimes it's understanding. But this diagnosis, pediatric cancer, has an 80-20 rule, and the 80-20 rule is not about diagnosis. It's not about treatment. It's about 80% of families will break up over a diagnosis like this. It's not because of lack of love. It's not because of that type of thing. It is what this does to you mentally. There are a lot that we have met that are in the 80% side, and there's less that are in the 20% side that have managed to stick it out as a couple, as a family, going through a diagnosis like this, especially if your child passes, what it will do to you.
That is a real thing. My husband and I entered grief counseling 2 weeks after Brittany passed, and I think it was not only the best thing for us in handling the loss of Brittany, but I think for our marriage too, because there's just a lot that goes into it. Like you said, it's not a loss of love for each other. I do feel that there are maybe some situations where there's blame that go on with just reflecting on the past. What if? Why didn't we do this? You made this choice. That's the hard thing too, is when you are making these choices for your child, like you both have to be on board with making these choices. Some like choosing to do some experimental drugs or signing the DNR. You really have to be a team, because if you're not, after everything's said and done, it's going to come back and one of you is going to be like, well, I wasn't on board with that, or you made that choice without me. And that's where it's going to really break things down even more. I feel very lucky that my husband and I have such a strong relationship, very open communication, because I've seen in some of the forums that we've joined for like loss of a child, people have voiced how their spouse doesn't want to talk about the child anymore. They just move forward with their life, and just a huge breakdown. And I can't imagine living the rest of my life without my husband, who knows exactly everything that I have been through, what we've seen and what we've done. And if I don't have that, I would feel completely alone, because no one's ever going to understand more than your partner, who's witnessed all of the good, the bad, the extremely ugly, and the deep darkness that comes with childhood cancer and childhood loss. Because some of the stuff that we've said to each other, things that we've shared, we could never share with other people. Just they wouldn't get it. They wouldn't understand. So yeah, I think that's a huge thing, and it's hard. You got to keep working at it, and I think grief counseling is huge, and that's the thing I don't know if people are aware of, or even not even just grief counseling for families that do have kids that are in recovery or survive. I think counseling is huge because you've gone through something very traumatic, and I'm sure at the back of your mind it's always going to be there. What if? What is this fever? Is this something new? Is it going to come back? Because like you said, the rates that they give you are a 5-year survival rate. They're not like, 8% you're gonna be cancer free for the rest of your life. They're talking about there's an 8% chance you're gonna be event free for 5 years. After that, who knows? And all the other drugs that we're giving you have a high chance of giving you another type of cancer as well. So, yeah.
Yep. No, that's exactly. And like I said, my wife and I did, it's probably the beginning of the year, or maybe it was the end of last year. We did an episode together, actually talking about this and, asking questions. And to be honest with you, I had never really thought about it. I never really asked about it. But I did ask. I said, did you ever think that there were times that we weren't going to make it? And she said, yeah, when she brought up things to me that maybe I didn't really think about, or I blocked out of my mind, or it just didn't occur to me. But I know that I was angry a lot of the time. I was not at her, but I was angry at the situation. I was angry at the doctors. I was maybe even distant, and I didn't know how much it was affecting her or our relationship. And to be honest, to hear her say that even 3 years later scared the hell out of me, because my family is everything to me, and I grew up in a broken home. My parents divorced when I was 6, and I said from the very first day of our marriage, I said, I'm never letting that happen. It's never going to happen. I said, we're going to show our kids what real love is. We're going to show them what a relationship is, what they should be expecting. And thank God that we just passed last month 20 years, and it's incredible. And I hope that my kids take away something from that, we joke all the time that what's the key to a good marriage is tolerance. And I think that's still true, I think, to a point, but I think we just developed a stronger bond over this. And because I think we've had shit thrown at us from day one, and we've always managed to come out on top, and we just decided that we're going to fight this together, and we do have to be on the same page. And be 100% and discuss the options completely with each other, and make a united front when it came to her treatment. And I think that makes a lot of sense. That's really what gave us that ability to be in that 20% and to come out on the other side and still be okay. And now we can look at it and say, there is not a damn thing that life can throw at us at this point that can be worse than what we've been through. And now we've weathered that storm. And now we have a guardian angel to make sure that we're moving along in the right path, but we've weathered all of that. So what do you have to throw at us now that can be worse than what we have felt and experienced? And, it is still going to be a detrimental percentage and statistic in this community. And I wish it wasn't. Yeah. My wife and I never did any professional counseling. She really pushed and thought that I needed it more. Mainly because I did all the inpatient stuff with JC. I was the one that was away all the time doing those things. And I've said in the past too that I have pictures and stories that I've never even shared with her that I internalize, and I just don't feel like it's necessary to bring that type of stuff up. And, maybe one day it'll be, I throw myself into my work. I feel like that's my therapy. But it also stresses me out, and maybe one day that's the path that I need to take. And, I don't talk about it at all. Counseling for people is great if it's for you, if it's not, but maybe one day that's the path that we'll have to go. But, definitely take it into consideration and understand that, your well-being is kind of like I tell people it's the airplane oxygen mask theory. Like, you have to be okay before you can help other people. And if you're not okay, you're no good to anybody.
Yeah. No, and I didn't know grief counseling was a thing. Like, I've heard of, people have a therapist and things like that, but I didn't know that there was a specific thing for grief counseling. And another mom who sadly lost her child about 6 months before Brittany shared with us, and so that's how I learned about it. And it's definitely interesting because it's somebody that provides you a very safe space to talk about the really tough things about grief, and you can be very, um, raw and open, and they're just it was just a fantastic. At least the one that we met with has been great, and we still go. We go about once a month. Just gives us like an hour together to just talk about everything. But yeah, I mean, there's, like you said, at this point in your marriage, if you can weather something like this, it strengthens that bond, and it's something nobody else will ever understand. You couldn't even describe it to people, what you guys go through, and as parents, and making those decisions, and day in and day out, and the things that you witness. And yeah, I mean, we had fights and arguments and things like that, but at the end of the day, you have to be united, no matter what, because if not, that's just going to eat you alive if you're not on the same page and you don't get the outcomes that you want. Yeah.
Yeah. You just have to be, just keep the lines of communication open, and just be sure to again, that is what you said too, is that you understand exactly what the other one went through because you were there together experiencing it. And you can really never forget that. You can talk to other parents, you can talk to counselors, you can talk to doctors, nurses, social workers, and that's great. But you, in that household with your partner, you guys saw it, you witnessed it, you heard it, everything. That's the one person that you're always going to be able to confide in 100%. And you have to be open and honest with everything you're going through, because I can promise you, if you're having a bad day, I understand why you're having a bad day. And my wife and I will have that back and forth sometimes, where she just wakes up and she's just sad, and she doesn't share her emotions as much as I do.
Mm-hmm.
And so if she's sad and I say, we went through this together, like, you have to open up to me. I want you to open up to me. I want us to talk about it, because there's nothing you can do, but I can listen. I can listen, and I can be there, because, our friend or our board member for the nonprofit, or a business partner, or somebody that I work with, they don't understand 100% what I've gone through. They can say, okay, you've lost a child. You battled this horrible disease together as a family. I empathize with I sympathize with what you're feeling, and I feel bad, and this and that, but you don't truly understand. And what I will tell people all the time is, I don't want you to understand how I feel. I don't want you to feel that. I just want you to listen to me and realize that, yes, we are the same people that we were before all this happened, but we are definitely broken people, and we've just learned how to adapt to life at this point and move forward. But we're also not lepers, so don't run from us and be afraid to be around us and talk to us, because you're not going to break us at this point. You're not going to make it worse by asking questions. And I would rather you do that. I'd rather you say the wrong thing all day so I can correct you than to not say anything at all. But the best advice that I can give people is just be there. Just be there. Even if that, listen, I was on the phone the other day when my sister called me because she was venting about something for 20 minutes, just because she wanted to vent. Just, if somebody's like, listen, I'm having a shitty day, this is going, I need somebody to talk to, just listen, because they're not asking you to fix it. There's nothing you can do to fix it at this point. Just be the best person you can be. If you truly want to know how to be there for families like ours, just listen. That's it.
No, it's true. I couldn't have said it any better.
So like I said, honestly, I think we could just sit here for hours and hours and hours and just have a conversation. And we're probably going to have to do this again and get even more out there and stuff like that. But What I will ask is to tell me and to tell us about Brittany's Believers and what it is and what you do.
Yeah, so Brittany's Believers kind of came about when Brittany was going through treatment for people that wanted to be with us and support Brittany. And then after she passed, my husband and I knew that we wanted to continue her legacy. We wanted to support research, and we wanted to support local families that were battling childhood cancer because we know the financial strain that it puts on a family. So we established Brittany's Believers. We became a 501c3 nonprofit in January, and our goal is to just raise awareness for childhood cancer, so advocacy work, talking wherever we can, and raising funds for research. So we actually are doing a lot of work with the CCTDI. They are a huge childhood cancer research organization out in the Northwest, and we met with Dr. Charles Keller, and he really just took the time to learn about Brittany, and we have developed what's called the Brittany Project, and we're just working on some specialized rhabdomyosarcoma research, really trying to understand her cancer. She had this rare mutation, so they're really focusing on that. So we partnered with them and support research that they're doing. They're an incredible organization. We were able to meet with them at CureFest, and they were just wonderful to just their passion and the drive that they all have for childhood cancer is just incredible, and the work that they're doing is incredible. So we work with them, and then we work with 2 local hospitals, 2 of which Brittany was treated at, and we try to provide care packages to kids that are inpatient at least twice a year. So we donate gifts and provide meals for the family because we all know that hospital food gets really tiresome when you're there for a long period of time. So we do try to provide them with dinners twice a year. And then we've been working with social workers at the 2 hospitals and some of the other locals to connect with families that need financial aid and help paying for their bills directly. Whether it be for like housing, rent, electrical, things like that. So any ways that we can help kind of ease that burden, we've been trying to do that as well.
That's awesome. I love the fact, like, obviously we do care packages as well, and I love that side that was JC. That was her thing. It was like give back in a way that was so important to her when she was in the hospital. And that'll always be at the core of what we do. So I love that. And the research side of it is something else that we're starting to, I mean, obviously we donate to research, but I would love to get more in depth into it like that and what you're doing. So I think that's incredible. And the outcomes of the parents, and I've heard in the past from doctors, even from politicians, it's like, we want to hear, like we truly want to hear families that are involved in this and want to get out there and give us a reason to continue to do the research or continue to, fight for funding or whatever. We want to hear that. And I think a lot of people are scared off of that. Well, they're not going to do it because they don't get enough money, or you're just one person. So your story is, although significant, not significant enough to spark, a research project or something, but it really is. It just takes reaching out and being in contact with people, and sometimes being annoying, which is what I've tried to do. If something, that's what it takes.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's awesome. And so I look forward to seeing more of the Brittany Project moving forward and seeing some things happen out of that. I think that's incredible.
Yeah, it's meeting with them was just, we were able to actually send Brittany's tumor that was biopsied. They still had it at Boston Children's, so we were able to send it out there, and they can work on using the tumor for like part of just overall their database for rhabdomyosarcoma, and then even more so. And it's just incredible. I hadn't heard about them before. So that was really something that after Brittany passed, we learned. And then the other thing too is that we had never heard of CureFest, which is, you've been there as well, this huge childhood cancer festival that goes on down in DC in September. And we had never heard of it until Brittany passed. And I've been advocating more to the parents that I've been meeting that their kids are newly diagnosed. They're not aware of it. So So it's just incredible that there's all this work that's being done, even this festival that goes on to bring awareness, talk to people in the Capitol and lawmakers and stuff that people are still just not even aware of. So advocacy is a huge thing for us too, because you don't know what you don't know. And it's part of our job as having been thrust into this world where we will forever be a part of to share that and to provide like you are platforms to just keep getting information out there. Because there's a lot of things that are trying to be done. They just need more support and they need more voices and obviously more financial support as well. But if you can't provide financial support, you can provide advocacy by just sharing. All you have to do is share a post on social media, and you never know who you're going to reach or impact. So.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, CureFest for us has been an incredible experience, and that's the first year we went was September of 2021, so literally 2 months after JC had passed. It was our first year there, and it was hard, but it was also so comforting to be around that many people that truly could understand and were there for you and were there for the reason that you were fighting for, not that you weren't even searching. This was what was there and what was going to happen, and it was incredible. And now we go every year, and we'll be there again this year. And it's unfortunate that the angel wall that they put up now down there is 300% bigger than it was last year. It's unreal. But that, to me, it's like that shows, that's that visual aspect that I think people need to really see how this is impacting the world. That's only the people that submit things, but it is ridiculous. And we make it a point to show every single face on that wall when we're there and to walk up and down with videos. And last year we took a lot of pictures home and mailed them out to parents that weren't able to come, which we'll do again this year because we feel like otherwise it's just going to be stored in a building, and your child deserves more respect than that. And we want to be able to do that as a service. So, but the big thing about advocacy and about what you can do to help, finances are always fantastic. As 501c3s, we run off of everybody's donations, community support, and things like that. Without it, we can't survive. Mm-hmm. But word of mouth is almost more valuable every single day than money. And what can I do to help? What can I do to help? Share our post, share our website, share events that we're having, come to our events that we're having. Don't think of it as, I just posted this the other day. Don't think of it as $50 for a ticket. Think of it as research. Think of it as a care package. Think of it as a distraction from life. Think of it as money that will be reinvested into the future that is going to make a difference in maybe even your children's lives. Because unfortunately, you have to approach this when you're speaking to members of Congress. You have to approach it when you're speaking to anyone else. That at any point, unfortunately, at any day, this could be you. Mm-hmm. And as you're sitting here, as I'm sitting in your office, and you have pictures of 5 children on your desk, I don't want it to be you. But we weren't cancer parents until the day we were, right? And the night before, even 12 hours prior, that sure as hell wasn't what I was thinking. I know that when we got an answer back from, our doctor, this is what it is. She has swelling of the optic nerve. My wife was on the internet searching what swelling of the optic nerve meant. And the first thing that comes up is brain tumor. And I thought, no, that can't be it. That's not what it is. It was. And it doesn't, it's like, and it's a random choice. Okay. It's just not, most adult cancers, not all of them, don't come at me. Most adult cancers can be linked to lifestyle, can be linked to choices, can be linked to things like that. There is no rhyme or reason for pediatric cancer at all. There's no understanding. Very, very few can be linked to a certain thing. It's always just random. You know what I mean? There's no, whether it's, sarcomas or whether it's, brain cancers, rhabdomyosarcoma, osteosarcoma, Hodgkin's lymphoma. You're not looking at it saying, okay, and our best friends in the world, their daughter passed from fibrolamellar hepatocellular carcinoma. I didn't think I'd get all that out. From liver cancer, associated with heavy drinking. She was a year older than our daughter. Okay, so that's obviously not the case here. And so this is part of it, like looking at it saying there's no understanding as to why this is happening. Mm-hmm. So yes, funding our nonprofits and what we do every single day is fantastic, but really sharing the words and being part of what we're doing is so much more impactful every single day. I shouldn't be able to post on Facebook on July 3rd every single year, this is another year without you, and get 100 responses and likes and comments, and then post about our event that we're having next month and get 3. Mm. It's an obvious situation that people are drawn to tragedy, or people are drawn to sad things, or they either just pass them over. But when it comes to we're asking for money because we're going to donate it, or we're asking for money to survive, we're just going to keep on scrolling.
Yeah, you could just share. Yeah. Like, you never know. Like, if you can't afford it, that's absolutely fine. And it doesn't hurt to share a post, advocate, things like that. Because it is true. We thrive off of the generosity as nonprofits, right? That's how we survive. And we are trying to do something really fantastic with it. And so it is something that, it just takes a community, and it's also a passion project for us. It's a way for us to keep Brittany's name present and active and her legacy alive. And same thing for JC. You're trying to just, as her parent, you're still being her parent. You're still doing something for her. And that means so much to me. Having the foundation, yes, sometimes it's a struggle. Being like, why I wish that we weren't in this situation, or I wish that Brittany was still here and that she was a part of this. And, but it allows me to still just be doing something for her as her mom, keeping her alive here with us. And it just means the world to me.
Yep. You are 100% in everything. And this is 100% about keeping our children's legacies alive and ensuring that everything that they did in their short time here is remembered, and what they would have provided to this world throughout the entirety of the life that they are not able to live now, they're ensuring in the short time that they had here. And I'll just close that by saying that the one thing that was said by our pastor at JC's funeral was that when she was welcomed to heaven, she said, but I only had 8 years. And God said, but look what you did those 8 years. And I feel like that is the conversation that is had with all of these children as they enter heaven, is that it's not that you only had this, it's look what you did with it. And compared to what a lot of us do with the 40, 50, 60, 70 years that we have, we are horrible examples of people compared to what these kids do in such a short amount of time. Even with just their innocence and just their genuine hearts, what they can provide to people, what they can give just by who they are, and having people reach out and say that we've been touched by what she was and what she did and how she gave back and how she wanted to be a part of everything. I had a friend tell me that she was a smoker forever and she stopped when JC passed because that touched her in such a way that's like, I have to take better care of myself because of what I learned from her. And it seems simple and insignificant, but it's those little things, and we feel her every single day in every single thing that we do. And to joke about it, she plays jokes on us around here too. Things happen that we can't explain, and that's just because that's who these kids are. So to know them is to love them, and to listen to them is to have a perspective on life that you'll never get anywhere else, that you're never going to learn anywhere else, which is why it's so impactful to have a lot of these children that are part of the organizations that are still with us, that are going to Congress, that are going to DC, and they are speaking the stories, because we can speak all day about our kids and never stop. Hearing it from their mouth, hearing it from their words is so incredibly impactful, and it makes a difference. It really does. but it also takes a lot of people to jump on board and realize what that difference is. We're not doing all of this stuff, and we're not running nonprofits, and we're not being on social media and having podcasts because we have nothing else to do with our lives. This is a passion that we have now, and a drive that we have now, and a mission that we were given, and we were left because our children said, this is what you need to do moving forward. Our names need to be in lights because we deserve it, and they absolutely do. And I will not stop 110% until my daughter's name is on the side of a building in lights flashing where she deserves to be. And that is my goal. And that is I don't have an off switch, and I never have. It can be at the detriment to your health sometimes, but I always have to go back and look at it and say, but I can't stop. She deserves me to keep going. They deserve us to keep going. And until one day we don't have to be here doing this, we have to keep going. As nonprofits like ours, we are the absolute antithesis of a business. We want to go out of business. I don't want to have to get up every day and do this. I wish, because then people would know and the world would be different. So that is where we are. So I will ask, where can people get more information about Brittany's Believers?
Yeah, so we have a website, brittany'sbelievers.com. We share on there just kind of like our mission. We do have an annual event that we are hosting every year. It's called Bands for Brittany. Brittany was a huge lover of music and dance, and she even wanted to learn how to play guitar. So we have started that. It's usually going to be held in May, right around Brittany's birthday. And then you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Brittany's Believers, BRITTNEYS is how we spell her name. So very unique, but we have our logo. It's got like the B with the purple background is how you can notify that it's us.
That is awesome. So anybody that is listening, I urge you please to, as much we always ask you to look at our stuff, but check out Brittany'sBelievers.com, as well as any type of social media out there. Obviously, like I said before, financial support is fantastic in the way that we survive, but really just getting in there, reading the stories, and sharing them out. It takes less time to hit the share button than it does comment. So if you don't want to go that far, just share it out. Just share it on your pages. Put it on your stories, whatever social media you're on. There's different lingo for it. Just get it out there, and allow us to continue to gain support and followers, because that's how we're going to make that big impact, is organizations coming together and being stronger than the people that are shutting the door and telling us that there's nothing we can do because we're just not loud enough. And to that I say, you just haven't heard us all speaking at one time yet. That we will definitely continue to work hard, and it was an absolute pleasure and honor to be able to have you here and speak about Brittany as well as the organization. There's so many incredible similarities, and although they weren't friends while they were here on Earth, I know they're friends now.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, letting me talk about Brittany. We could talk for hours, like we said, and just thank you for all that you're doing in the community as well.
It is my pleasure to be able to continue to do it, and just as you, I would love to talk about JC all day long, and continue to share everything that she should have been doing now, but we are trying to do in her honor and keep their legacies alive. So, to both JC and Brittany, we love both of you, and we're going to continue to do this until everybody decides that they want to listen, and we feel like your legacies have been fulfilled. So thank you once again for sticking with me today and going through all this. I know, of course, I got emotional, and I think we both did, and that's okay, because this is real and raw stuff, and it's not censored, and we want to make sure that everybody understands that this is how it truly is, and we let you see exactly what we want you to see on a daily basis.
Very true. Very true.
So thank you so much. Everybody else, please, again, Brittany'sBelievers.com, as well as on Facebook, Instagram, anywhere you can find all that information, and make sure you like and share. And we will see everybody else next week.